Imagine waking up at 3 a.m. to the sound of water rushing under your door. You look outside, and your entire street is underwater. Your car? Gone? Your neighborhood? A river. This is not a movie. This happened in Houston, in New Orleans, in Miami, and experts are warning it's only going to get worse. Right now, there are millions of Americans living in cities that could be partially or completely underwater within the next few decades. And here's the scariest part. Many of them have no idea. Today, we're going inside the 10 most flood-threatened cities in America. We're going to look at the science, the disasters, and the uncomfortable truth that city planners are trying to ignore. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you might be rethinking where you live. Before we get into the cities, let's understand why this is happening, because it's not just about rain. There are three major forces driving the flood crisis in America. Number one, sea level rise. Global ocean levels have risen about 8 to 9 inches since 1880, and the pace is accelerating. By 2100, scientists project seas could rise another 1 to 4 feet or more if major ice sheets collapse. That doesn't sound like a lot until you realize that just 1 foot of sea level rise can turn a routine storm surge into a catastrophic flood. Number two, land subsidence. This one surprises most people. Some American cities are literally sinking into the ground. Decades of pumping out groundwater has caused the earth beneath certain cities to compress and drop, in some cases by several inches per year. So even if sea levels stayed the same, the land is getting lower. You can't win. Number three, more intense storms. Warmer oceans fuel stronger hurricanes and storms. We're not necessarily seeing more storms overall, but the ones we do get are wetter, faster, and more destructive. Hurricane Harvey in 2017 dropped over 60 inches of rain on parts of Texas in just a few days. That's not normal. That's a new normal. Now, let's talk about the cities. City number one, New Orleans, Louisiana. We have to start here. New Orleans is arguably the most flood-vulnerable major city in the entire United States. And the reason is simple. It's sinking. 80% of New Orleans sits below sea level. Some neighborhoods are 6 to 10 feet below the surface of Lake Pontchartrain, which sits right next to the city. The city is protected by a massive system of levees and floodwalls. After Hurricane Katrina in 2005, the federal government invested $14 billion in upgrading those systems. But here's the problem. The city is still sinking at a rate of 2 inches per year in some areas, and the levees were only designed to handle a 100-year storm. What happens when a 500-year storm comes? Scientists say it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. City 2. Miami has a problem that most cities dream of: beautiful weather, gorgeous beaches, and a booming real estate market. But Miami also has a geological nightmare. The entire city is built on porous limestone, essentially a giant sponge. This means you can't build traditional flood walls or levees, because the water just seeps up through the ground. Even on sunny days with zero rain, Miami Beach experiences flooding. It's called sunny day flooding or nuisance flooding. And it's getting worse every year. By 2060, studies project that up to 25% of Miami-Dade County could be regularly flooded. Property values in low-lying neighborhoods are already starting to drop. Some analysts call it a climate bubble in Miami real estate, and they're warning it's about to burst.
City 3, Houston, Texas. Houston is the fourth largest city in America. It's also one of the most flood-prone. In the span of just 3 years, 2015, 2016, and 2017, Houston was hit by 3 major floods, each one called a 500-year flood event. 3 500-year floods in 3 years. Let that sink in. Houston's problem is partly geography. It's flat, low-lying, and full of bayous, and partly overdevelopment. Decades of building over wetlands and prairie land removed the natural flood absorption system. Now, when it rains, there's nowhere for the water to go, except into people's homes. Hurricane Harvey alone flooded over 150,000 homes. The economic damage exceeded $125 billion. And the city is still growing, still building, still paving over the very land that used to protect it. City 4. New York City, New York. When people think of flood risk, they don't always think of New York City. But Sandy changed that. In October 2012, Superstorm Sandy made landfall near New Jersey and sent a 14-foot storm surge into New York Harbor. It flooded tunnels, shut down the subway for days, knocked out power for over 2 million people, and killed 43 people in the city alone. New York's vulnerability is its geography. It's surrounded by water on 3 sides, and the neighborhoods at greatest risk aren't the glamorous ones. It's places like Red Hook in Brooklyn, the Rockaways in Queens, and large parts of Staten Island. Working-class communities with fewer resources to recover. The city has a $15 billion flood protection plan in development. But some experts say it's not enough, not fast enough, and doesn't account for the full scale of sea level rise coming. In City 5, Charleston, South Carolina. Charleston is one of America's most beautiful historic cities. It's also flooding more than twice as often as it did just 50 years ago. The city sits on a low-lying peninsula between 2 rivers. High tides regularly push water into downtown streets, basements, and parks. What was once an occasional nuisance is now happening dozens of times per year. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, has documented a dramatic increase in high-tide flooding along the South Carolina coast, and projections show Charleston could see 180 or more flood days per year by 2045. Not 180 hurricanes. 180 days where normal tidal cycles flood parts of the city. That's half the year. City 6, Norfolk, Virginia. Norfolk, Virginia is home to the largest naval base in the world, Naval Station Norfolk. And it's sinking. Norfolk is experiencing some of the fastest rates of sea level rise on the entire East Coast, due to both rising oceans and land that is subsiding as a result of groundwater withdrawal. The U.S. Navy has spent hundreds of millions of dollars raising piers and infrastructure to keep the base operational. Meanwhile, surrounding civilian neighborhoods are flooding with increasing regularity. Roads in some areas are being raised. Some residents have been bought out by the government and relocated. Norfolk may become one of the first American cities where managed retreat, deliberately moving people away from the waterfront, becomes official policy. City number 7, Tampa, Florida. Tampa has been called the most vulnerable major city to hurricanes in the United States. That's not our opinion. That comes from a study in the journal Nature Climate Change. Tampa Bay is shaped like a funnel. When a major hurricane comes in at the right angle, the storm surge gets channeled directly into the city. Tampa hasn't taken a direct hit from a major hurricane in nearly 100 years. That long stretch of luck has bred overconfidence. Property values near the water are high. Development has expanded to the shoreline. In 2022, Hurricane Ian came dangerously close to Tampa before shifting south to Fort Myers. It killed over 150 people and caused billions in damage. Experts warn that Tampa is overdue, and when its storm comes, it could be catastrophic. City number 8, Sacramento, California. While many fear coastal rising tides, this inland capital faces a far more immediate threat from within. Sacramento sits at the confluence of 2 massive waterways, the Sacramento and the American rivers. It is one of the most flood-prone cities in America. The city is protected by an extensive network of levees, but many of these structures are decades old, poorly maintained, and structurally inadequate. A major flood here could be one of the costliest natural disasters in history. The economic heart of the region sits just feet below water level. FEMA estimates that a 200-year flood event could cause $25 billion in damage in just 24 hours, paralyzing the state's government. California's weather is becoming increasingly erratic. Severe droughts are now followed by massive atmospheric river storms that dump months of rain in days. As the water levels rise, the pressure on these aging levees is growing. The margin for error is shrinking every single year. Sacramento stands at a crossroads. Without massive investment in infrastructure, the next great storm could redefine the future of California's capital forever. City 9. Annapolis, Maryland. Annapolis, Maryland, one of America's oldest cities, the sailing capital of the US, is being slowly swallowed by the Chesapeake Bay. Annapolis experiences tidal flooding on 40 or more days per year. Historic downtown streets, some of which have stood for 300 years, regularly go underwater during high tide events. The city is spending millions on flood mitigation. Bulkheads are being raised, stormwater systems are being upgraded. But locals who have lived there for generations say the changes are happening faster than the city can respond. The battle between history and the rising sea continues. City 10. Phoenix, Arizona. You probably didn't expect to see Phoenix on this list. It's a desert city, one of the driest in America. But Phoenix faces a different kind of flood risk: flash flooding. The desert soil in Arizona is often hard and dry, meaning it can't absorb rainfall quickly. When monsoon storms hit, and they do hit, water sheets off the ground and rushes through washes and arroyos in underpasses with terrifying speed. In recent years, flash floods have killed people driving through flooded roadways, swept away hikers, and caused millions in infrastructure damage. And climate change is making Arizona's monsoon season less predictable and more extreme. Stay alert. The beauty of the desert hides a power that can change in an instant.
So what does the future actually look like? The nonprofit research group, Climate Central, has created detailed flood projection maps for American cities. Their findings are sobering. By 2050, that's just 25 years from now, areas currently home to millions could face annual flooding. By 2100, under a high-emission scenario, parts of Miami, New Orleans, and other coastal cities could be permanently submerged or uninhabitable. The economic consequences are staggering. A 2019 report estimated that flooding cost American homeowners and communities $32 billion per year, and that number is climbing. Insurance companies are already responding. Major insurers have pulled out of Florida and other high-risk states. Without insurance, mortgages become difficult or impossible to obtain. Without mortgages, property values crash. Some economists warn of a coming climate Lehman Brothers moment, a sudden repricing of flood-risk real estate that could ripple through the entire economy. #climate crisis. What are we doing about it? The good news, and yes, there is some, is that American cities are not just sitting still. New York City has the Big U project, a massive curved sea barrier proposed for Lower Manhattan. Miami is elevating roads, upgrading drainage, and experimenting with living shorelines. These living shorelines use natural mangrove and oyster reef barriers that absorb wave energy. Houston has passed billions in flood bond funding to buy out flood-prone homes and restore wetlands. The city is also working to redesign its bayou system to better manage heavy rainfall. The federal government's National Flood Insurance Program provides coverage for millions of homeowners. Across the country, architects and engineers are rethinking how cities are built. This involves elevated buildings, green roofs, and permeable pavement. These are whole new frameworks for living with water instead of fighting it. Some cities in the Netherlands have become models for what flood-resilient urban design can look like. But the hard truth is, the scale of investment needed is in the trillions. The political will is uneven, and time is running out. Here's what I want you to take away from this. Flooding is not a distant threat. It's not something that only happens to other people. It is happening right now in real American cities to real American families, and the trajectory is getting worse. If you live in or near a flood risk zone, there are things you can do today. Check your home's flood zone status on FEMA's Flood Map Service Center. Consider flood insurance even if it's not required. Standard homeowners insurance does not cover flooding. Know your evacuation routes and stay informed about your city's flood mitigation plans. The cities on this list are not doomed, but they do need serious attention, serious investment, and serious honesty from their leaders and their residents. Because water doesn't care about politics. Water doesn't negotiate. It just rises. If this video made you think differently about where you live, where you're buying a home, or how we build our future cities, share it with someone who needs to see it. Drop a comment below. Which city surprised you the most? And subscribe if you want more videos that go deep on the stories shaping America's future. Thanks for watching.